we go. Okay, so as you can see, how on earth do I retire Domino? I've crossed out Domino. It could be notes. A lot of people still refer to Domino as notes. And I realized after we came up with the title that, and I was talking to somebody and I realized that they were still referring to Domino. Well, they were referring to Domino as notes. So oh, do you have Domino? No, but we've got notes. And I went, okay, I've got to kind of change that wording. And I think Lou would have had similar experiences where everybody refers to it as notes. Okay, so welcome. The purpose of today is to discuss the process of migrating off Domino, or it might be just off notes. Now, this is a two-pronged statement. Again, once one of the prongs is people see notes as Domino, so you might have to move completely off that. The other is that you recognize that Domino is a capable application development platform and a web server, so you're going to maintain everything on Domino, but your focus is to remove the notes client. My background is been a IBM, Primaxis has been an IBM business partner for years. Our name was Dr. Notes, so that gives a little bit of an indicator of our background. We have for years supported the Domino and Notes infrastructure. We were instructors. I've written a book on using the Lotus Notes 8.5 10 years ago. So we've been around Notes and Domino for a long time. So, and again, we recognize it as a very viable solution for application development. So your focus could be just getting rid of the Notes client. One of the reasons why I was saying I've been around for ages, one of the bane of everybody's existence is managing the Notes client. And I remember I've trained countless numbers of help desk people on what a Notes INI is and what a desktop DSK, and then it changed from DSK to like whatever the file name was. So been around for a long time. So the Notes client is a big issue. So now one of the things I wanted to talk about quickly before we get into the main point is there's Nomad in version Domino 12 will be coming out with a new capability, which is progressive web application. So traditionally, Nomad is the Notes client, which can be served up, which you can use on a device. So it's across both Apple and Android devices now, which is really fantastic. But what is a real game changer is that now it's available as a, it will become available as a PWA, a progressive web application. So then you'll be able to use it on desktop as well. So if anyone's been around, the HCL guys will probably kill me, but it's a bit like the Lotus Notes browser plugin. That's kind of my simple way of understanding it. So that is something that I think is really worth looking at. Vault is the low-code, no-code solution that they've also released. There's a brand new Vault Max has just been, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, got released. That is worth having a look at as well, because it can pull data from different areas, sit over top of Notes. You can create an application from a spreadsheet and you can make that available, and it's a percentage of your licensing costs. And also with Domino, there's new application development capabilities in there. So again, we're not necessarily boohooing Domino in any way. We love Domino, but next sentence here, if however the mandate for management is to move off Domino Notes stack completely, then you don't have a choice whether you love it or hate it. It's a mandate that you have to do. So that's what this webinar is hopefully about. If you are with what I've discussed already, go to HCL. They've got webinars coming out of their ears. There's lots of information there, and we really encourage you to have a look at it, because it's always good to know what you're getting off if you do have to get off. Now, I'm going to do some poll questions during the webinar, and we will do a question time at the end. And hopefully by the end of the webinar, I'll work out how to unmute everybody. So, okay, and let me go to the next slide. Now, I'm super excited to have Lou with us. And we might just go out of the PowerPoint for a little bit so we can just sort of chat with each other. Lou is a practice manager for binary tree and in the application transformation place. Now, hopefully everybody's caught up with the news that binary tree is now a part of Quest Software. So we both started when we were 12 in the business, didn't we, Lou? Yep, cool. Yep. 20 years of experience in professional services, consulting and technology, and has managed quite a lot of the big enterprise engagements, which is why we're bringing Lou in, because SMB in Europe is very different to an SMB, small medium business in Australia. And we keep having to tell the US and the Europe, no, we're smaller over here. So what we're going to go through, we've put this up in the webinar, is what does a Domino application really mean? What do you need to know? What is important to me? Where do you start? How can I find that magic software? And then how can we help? Because that's what we're here to help as well. So just the last thing before we introduce Lou is the Primaxis and Binary Tree partnership. We've been partnering in APAC for over 6 years. We really value our relationship with Binary Tree, and we have a combined expertise in the Domino platform. Again, I started on version 4 when I was 12. Local support and accessibility to worldwide exports. This is why the relationship with Binary Tree is important, because that's that worldwide aspect. So Lou, where are you sitting at the moment? What country are you in?
I'm in very dark Sweden because it's not even light yet.
which with her accent does not relate to where she is. So
Scottish, Swedish, Sweatish.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know there was such a thing.
Isn't.
Okay. Well, we've discovered there's German Swiss and French Swiss. So I thought there could have been. And fully certified resources in Domino, Microsoft, and Binary Tree platforms. So quite, can I be so arrogant to say we know what we're talking about? Cool. So, Lou, do you have this presentation? Oh, we'll leave it up. So, Lou, do you want to start talking through this presentation?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Karen.
My pleasure.
And I just want to say I'm really happy to be here talking about our capabilities that we can really help people with, and the experience that we both bring to this. So from a Binary Tree / Quest perspective, these are just some of the customers that I've actually been part of in the past few years. So I mean, we go from anything from doing, working with customers on onesie twosies databases, which just need content export because there is an overlying application that's available, say in SharePoint, that's going to actually pull the information and present it in a different way, all the way up to the large enterprise customers such as McKinsey and Caterpillar, Aon, and between analysis and actually doing bulk migrations for these companies, we've gotten quite far in a short period of time from the inception of creating this practice.
Cool. Just checking any, just to let everybody know, there's a Q&A area in the menu options with Zoom. If you want to put up some questions there in preparation, the last sort of 15 minutes we'll do a Q&A section as well. Now, I can't help myself, Lou. How do you pronounce, I told you I would do this, the last two companies, or does one not pronounce them?
I can do the bottom one.
Okay.
Because that's Landsvirken. But I mean, the other one, yeah, I don't speak Icelandic.
And can I just encourage everybody, which has got nothing to do with the seminar, last Christmas we were in Iceland, and at Christmas time it is the most magical place ever. So yeah, really, if anyone has the opportunity to go there, it's just fabulous. Cool.
And also come to Sweden, because we quite even though we're dark, we also have
Yeah,
have
the whole area.
the festive spirit.
I know.
Yeah.
I just love the whole area. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay. Oh, that's one of your customers?
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So Chemours, I mean, a massive global chemical company, and we helped them. They were already pretty far down the road of retirement with Domino, and they actually we were hosting their Domino apps for them. We were managing them,
Yeah.
which is something I think that you guys do as well, Karen.
Yep, we do.
And they were like, okay, now we've been told that we've just got to get rid of these applications.
Yeah.
And so they asked us to look very specifically at the final group of applications, and that's what we did for them. We actually did a little bit of a customized analysis, because they were looking for very specific things. It's the same thing for McKinsey. They were looking for very specific things. So this was my counterpart who worked with us in the business. She gave us this quote.
Cool.
And we still work with Chemours today.
Excellent. Okay, Lou. It's more than just moving applications.
It is indeed.
So do you want to unpack this for us?
Yeah, so I mean, the reality of any kind of application transformation is that it's not about just the application, because unlike having a mailbox, for example, you have one person or you have a group of people that use a mailbox, but a mailbox is a mailbox at the end of the day.
Mm.
But an application is a lot of different things. And the important thing that we need to think about when we are doing a project like this is that you've got to take into consideration what's going to happen within your business.
Mm.
So this is really all about business change. It's about maintaining a good experience for the users and your customers, because those applications may be applications that customers use. And then also looking at, well, if we did it like this, but okay, what is our governance looking like in the new world? So how are we actually going to manage these things going forward? And it's it's also all about figuring out, what does the business actually need? So there's so many different facets to application transformation, and we're talking about Domino today, but it's about any type of application transformation, be it SharePoint, be it anything, custom applications.
Yeah.
So we know that it's not. Yeah.
And sorry. I think you're right, because like the biggest, I think one of the biggest things that Lou has said to me, this mail migration, an application migration is not the same as mail. And I sort of thought about that, is that with mail, you've got predominantly one template. I must admit, I've been at one customer's and they had about 25 different mail templates over, 20 years. And every mail file had a different mail template it was looking up. And I understand that, but predominantly it's similar data going from one to the other. Whereas the complexity, the intricacy, the moving parts that could be involved, even with a Domino application could be 5 different databases on different servers interacting with different systems. It could have a DB2 backend. It could have an MQ series running on it. It could be integrated with SAP. There are all these different things. So I think the biggest thing you can walk away with is that this is not that we're going to make it more complex and bigger than Ben-Hur, but what the message to management is, this is not the same as mail, full stop.
Yeah.
So,
and Yeah, and this slide is, I mean, I'm not going to go through every single bullet point, because if there's one thing I hate, it's it's death by PowerPoint and someone reading off of a PowerPoint when, when you're doing a presentation.
I'm
I think,
capable of
Karen, you
reading.
and I are, we both come from a trainer background, so we know how to talk, but talk around things. So yeah, this slide, it really does exemplify the difference between messaging projects, which most people now have, they've retired the notes mail, and everyone thought that was the difficult part. And there was a great push by Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft put a lot of money behind it to get people off of this platform, and they very much sold it, as hurrah! All your problems are going to be solved. And this, I think, this was in like 2013 that this push really started, and of course everyone got their people off of Notes Mail, and people were using things like Skype, and they were using Outlook, and then but they were like, but all it's done is help me retire my mail servers, because I've still got all my applications here, and I've still got the Notes client because I've got my applications. So it was like, yay, but okay, not so much of a yay. So here with this slide, it's really the fact that, the main thing is that these type of projects for application transformation touch way more parts of the business and your end user community than email. There's much more interaction. You have to go out and talk to the people that use these applications.
Yeah.
There is no way of just starting to send out corporate emails saying, congratulations, you're going to be moved, and this is the timeline that we're going to be moving the company. No, this is basically, we're going to be moving to different platforms, and it's going to be a phased approach, and It's going to take time. And it's not, I think, a really important thing here is that mail is one-to-one, but applications could be many-to-one. Or it could be one-to-many.
Yeah.
So you're no longer going from, I think one of the things that I saw in the beginning, when I started this, this has been around for longer than I've been in this business, is that SharePoint was the only platform. Even though it wasn't the only platform, it was like, we've got the licenses for this, so we're going to move everything. We're going to take everything off of Notes and we're going to put it into SharePoint. And you're like, yeah, no. And there was a lot of people, they did that, or they tried, and some were successful, but it cost a lot of money to do it, because there was not as much available in the target environment, and there wasn't as much understanding of what you should be using SharePoint for, and that it's not something that is the same. It just didn't then especially give you the capability.
And I think there was a big push by Microsoft as well to say, we can easily migrate from SharePoint to Notes to SharePoint. And then there's a little tiny caveat, if it was the core templates that nobody ever used in Domino. And I think as well, but however, I think COVID and the fact that we've all gone online, I'm working from home, and just a caveat, I have a dog that snores, so if you hear I have it nodded off. And I do believe there is that consolidation and which is another driver. So again, it's not we don't like Domino, it's this is a business driver that we can't. I do like that very first line there, Lou. It's basically when you do a migration, it's IT owned. as soon as you start getting into the application, that's got, you go, who owns this application? Oh, they've left. Okay.
Yeah. And the good thing is we you know, part of the analysis that we offer is something, you know, we tell you who really is using it at a content level, so it's not just like who accesses the database, you know, it's, you can actually drill down.
Yeah, which is awesome.
And try, and you know, it's investigation.
So
and this is really,
you go. Yep.
Yeah. So this is really about, you know, the starting point. You know, what do you need to know? And so the way that we've approached the analysis is, you know, you've basically got questions. So it's like we provide the answers to the questions that are important when it comes to transformation, and also even just, you know, content migration. You need to know what you've actually got. So I mean, it really is this simple. You know, what have you got? Why do you have it? Do you still need it? You know, if you do, how is it being used? Because, you know, how it was maybe being used 3 years ago is not how it's currently used today. And, you know, and from that, okay, well, where should it go? And, you know, one of the things that I would say is it's always good to have an idea of what you're actually going to go to as a platform when you are in the analysis phase, because it then makes your mapping easier, right? But this is an iterative process. Yeah. You know, you are going to go collect, analyze, report at a high level to understand your inventory and your database usage, and, you know, your database design. So see the commonality of templates that are used, which will help you when you do your migration to say, like, okay, well, if I have to develop a custom, I'm just going to use the word template in a target, then I can apply this template to 350 databases. So I'm not reinventing the wheel 350 times. And then you start going down to collecting information from the business and the divisions about what their expectations are. Yeah. And what they think their journey may be. And it doesn't have to be technical, right? But, you know, what do they need to do their job? And then, you know, you're going, and for the databases that are of interest, then you're going to look at the content. And the content, I cannot, you know, more strongly recommend that, you know, this is key to when you have to migrate content, because it is vital to know what's in those databases and how much is in those databases and who's using what within those databases. And then it's the next thing is we're getting the more business feedback about the future and function. So I mean, it literally, you know, you do collection, analyze, report, collection, analyze, report, and it's both technical and at a business analysis
which I think is
level.
That's the insight that you guys have because of your experience, you and I suppose us as well, is that we have the understanding of the functionality and how Domino works, but then also we've got so it's really important. I'm going to launch a poll just about how many still use the Notes client. So we'll give that a few minutes and we'll just go to the next slide, which I think is, you've sort of already spoken to this. I like what you've said here. It's releasing the content from the Domino constraints. It's a bit like an exorcism. Perhaps I shouldn't say that. That was probably inappropriate. Sorry if anyone's listening. Yeah, so you've already sort of spoken to that. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Yeah. So do you want to go into this one, Lou?
can't actually see it because that poll, hold on 1 second, because the poll has come up in front.
Oh, my apologies. That's what I forgot, that
No,
it
it's
takes
fine.
over. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll give it, we've got 8 out of 11. So, oh.
Yeah, but can we go back to the other slide just for a sec,
Sure,
Karen?
sure. My apologies.
Yeah, because yeah, it's about, you know, I think this is an important slide from the perspective of it means different things to different people. And you know, I had, you know, my kaleidoscope brainwave a little while ago, and you know, some see SharePoint purely as a collaboration platform, right? Others see it as a platform to build business applications. Some see Domino just as a file repository of content. Some see it for building multifunctional business applications. Some have absolutely no idea about the platform, the functionality. They just use it. Yeah. And they use it in their everyday job, and they need it. And you know, we see all of those scenarios in every single project where we're doing analysis and then going into doing transformation. And I think the key thing here is that you've got all of this in the mix, and then you've also got IT and senior management, and they might not see this differentiation at all. Yeah, so you've got a real kind of, we just need to migrate it. It's not that hard. Yeah. So that was why I wanted to go back to that slide.
Yeah, that's good. It's really good. So yes, yeah, so here we go. Where do you start?
Yes. So what comes first? It's a bit like a chicken and egg scenario, isn't it? It's like, what comes first, the budget or the analysis? Because when I get into calls with customers, invariably it's, I just need a number. I just need budget. You know, I just need to know how much it's going to cost, even though we have no idea what, you know, what really is needed. You know? So I mean, when you're looking at a high level budget, you know, it's not just a cost for some software and some consulting, and then maybe having one of my guys learn something and then do it. You know, you've got costs for business change, governance. And what I mean by governance is that I'm really talking about the target in this perspective, because you know, I'll do my own little poll. Nobody put their hand up because I can't see you, but you know, we are great clutterers. Yeah, we moved to Teams not even 2 years ago, I don't think. 500 team sites, because we have no governance, right? And anybody that's worked in an Exchange environment, public folders, right, you know, brilliant. Thousands of public folders get created because of governance, and that's just, you know, a small example of governance. But I bet you most people in this call have got some situation where data and people have been allowed to run amok. And there'll be stuff everywhere. Yeah. So we're really good at saving stuff. Yeah. And you know, so you know, the budget, governance, target solution costs, because you know, the great thing about moving to online is that most of us have, you know, licenses that automatically will give us access to things like Power Platform to a certain extent, SharePoint, so it's all part of our subscription costs. But you know, you've got to remember there are extra costs, because you've got different, you might also have additional target solutions that you need to use depending upon your industry. And also, you know, how big your environment is and how much you're actually going to do with automation. Because, you know, you only get so much for free. With Microsoft, you know, like there is a limit for how many flows you can run, as an example. So So we've got to think about that. Then you've got the analysis costs. So we're talking about business analysis and we're talking about technical analysis. Then you've got the actual moving the stuff from one place to another. And if it requires development, what sort of development does it need? And on what sort of platforms do you need? And, last but my goodness, definitely not least, training. Because if you have been a notes shop for, a long time, this is a completely different world to move people into. And, I can't strongly recommend training enough, end user training, and also training to the project team that are actually going to be delivering this about what you're actually going to and how people actually will interact with it, especially when you've got to get business people to test stuff in the new environment, right? Because it's not a like for notes, because it never can be, because they're two fundamentally different platforms. So, if you want people to test, then you have to enable them to know how to do that testing and then be able to continue to manage and evolve their application on their new target. Yeah. So then we've got, so I mentioned the analysis and we spoke about the whys, the whats, the whens, the wheres. And, once you've done, your initial analysis, then you've got some further budget refinement. So remember that cycle of constant analysis and refinement. It's the same thing. It's the same. One? Yeah. Cool. It's exactly the same thing when it comes to your budget.
Yeah.
And then you've got transformation. Yeah. Then you can actually. But what I would say is it's not. You need to know all this before you do all of the transformation. Again, it's an iterative process.
Yeah.
I'm a vegetarian, but it's like, how do you eat an elephant? Piece by piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about knowing what you can do, what budget you have, creating that sensible timeline, and saying, okay, what do I want? What can I migrate easily? Okay, you know what? I can delete a load of this data. Yay, easy, nothing to do. Press delete, right? The next thing is that, okay, I need to keep this data for compliance reasons, but I don't need to keep it on notes. So I can decommission Domino servers, so I archive that. And whilst I'm archiving, I can be working on what maybe is going to go to SharePoint as an example. And then whilst you've got that parallel going on, you're also talking to the business about the more complex applications and the business function and the business development and the target platforms that they are perhaps going to go. Yeah. So it goes round and round and round. So it's like, I would say, like, you have a big woolly budget at the top, and then you're basically saying, okay, well, my budget is now going to be this.
Yeah, and I think the biggest message is that this is not, again, it is a process. And I think really with management, I think you almost have to unpack the process, which is a lot of what's in this presentation that you're doing, Lou. What's the process, so that they get a better understanding. And I suppose you've got to start somewhere. And I would highly recommend an analysis, because there's so many that don't know what they have, and the catalog.nsf is fantastic and the log files are fantastic, but they do not give you the type of analysis that we're talking about here. So it's an important part, and it's what you can report back to management to a certain extent, which is really important as well, to keep them in the loop and give them more of an understanding of the environment. Because to an end user, which Domino and Notes is not a very understandable complexity thing. So I'm just going to share the results. So we still have a high percentage of people that are using Notes, which which to me is a support issue. So the progress and development that HL have done could solve some of those issues for you. You might need to web enable your Domino application, or with the whole migration. But as I said again, if management have said no, you've got to move, then you have to move. Okay, I'm going to ask the next question. Have you had an analysis of your Domino environment? So I'm going to push that out, and while we go to the next slide. Okay, so just, I suppose we've got to do something around the pitch, haven't we, Lou? We're obviously Australian business, and we've got the benefit of our binary tree being global. We've got skills in both areas. Analytical skills, I mean, we've been building applications for over 20 years, supporting other people's applications for over 20 years, and going, what have they done here? And we've also, there's a proven migration as a service model there. I'm going to skip through that. Okay, so we've had some that have had an analysis. Maybe at the end of the session, we might just look at the value of that analysis. We'd love to hear from you guys and what you think about that. Okay. Oh, it did it too quickly, the magic button. Can you tell PowerPoint's not my power
app?
Yeah. So the big match, where is it? Lou, what's the answer to that one?
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. Okay.
Oh, unfortunately.
No.
But we've already covered this, but you have to start first, and you need to know what you've got to know where you're going to go on your journey. Yeah.
I think this is
one of the things. Yeah, one of the things about an analysis and having a pretty detailed analysis with shiny pictures is that you can take that to management. And one of the things that we do when we do our analysis is we create an executive presentation, right? So it's not just about giving you a ton of information and giving you, we use Power BI reports because Power BI is, it's a Microsoft, it's the future of reporting. If you're on Microsoft, it can do a lot of things, and it allows our customers to customize the reports thereafter. But the important thing is we provide an executive presentation. So we go in and we will say, like, okay, this is what we found. We found loads of stuff. But the very first half of the presentation is key findings and important things to take into consideration. So it makes the content of this digestible for not just the technical people that look in this and go, I know exactly what that's all about, but to the people that have that like basically sign off and purchase orders. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And it's this is a good slide to present to management to help them understand that you need support for this project. Cool. So I'm just going to share the results for that one. Have you had an analysis done? So it's a 60-40. So that's an interesting statistic coming back there. So what we might do, I'll go to the next slide, Lou.
Yeah. So, I think I also, I spoke a little bit about, what the application analysis from our side brings to the table. But, we pride ourselves on really knowing what is important to know. And, we collect a ton of data. Sometimes we don't even know how much data we collect, and we have to go back and look and say, like, if someone asks us for something custom, we're like, pretty sure we probably collect that, so let's go and have a look. You know, I mean, everything at the database level we collect, and for the most part, you know, you can get that out of Domino with scripts if you want to go and create your own Lotus scripts to interrogate the environment. And there's other, you know, there's other software out there that will also do it for you. But the most important thing for us is, you know, content is king, because that's where your compliance lies as well, right? So we drill into the content analysis, and one of the reasons that we do that is to make sure that what you think you want to do with something is the best thing to do based upon the type of content and how that content is stored and managed.
That's good.
And what we have seen, I mean, I've personally seen it in the past, that, you know, we've done migrations in the early days, shall we say, where we, you know, our customers come to us and said, we want you to migrate these applications, and they're all going to SharePoint. Okay, right? And, you know, so we've done what has been asked of us, and then, you know, we've ourselves have, you know, done a little bit of look back at the end of the project, because we then see what we've migrated, right? You know, you know, it's and we look at it and we went, wow, that customer probably could have migrated only 30% of what they actually migrated had they done an analysis. And so you think about, you know, okay, analysis isn't cheap and it takes time and it costs money, but then is it not more beneficial to not just move stuff for the fact that I don't know what the stuff is, I think I need it, let's just move the stuff. We also had, it was actually the same project, this is where I very much coined the avoid recreating the past in the future, because how Domino works is very different to anything in the target. And also it was written that way because it could be written that way, not because it should have been written that way. And if you try and do a like for like, it's going to either fail or it's going to cost potentially a lot of money.
That's
so
the big trap.
This is, you know, this is the time to make those changes. You know, think about, you know, you're moving to this brave new world. What does the brave new world have to offer me? And, you know, I'll use an example, is, you know, you've got an application in Notes and it's got 6 million documents in, right? And you look and go, oh, okay, 6 million documents, that's a lot. And then you look at, and it's also got an external connector to a DB2 database, right? And then there's another external connector to another type of database, right? And you're looking at it and you're like going, okay, well, what is this actually doing? Because I see a lot of information coming in, but I actually only see a few people actually using it, and not on a daily basis, maybe on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And you know, we looked into the application in more detail, and what they were using the application, what they were using Notes for, was to basically take information from disparate environments to create a reporting view. Right? So they were building a report in Notes. So they weren't adding any content in Notes, but they were pulling it all in so they could actually have a dashboard of different stuff. So, you know, would you migrate that? No, because the data lives in the source databases anyway, right? So what would you do? Well, what do I need from that reporting tomorrow? And the likelihood is if you're going to the Microsoft platform, you can use Power BI to do that for you.
Exactly.
You know, without having to pull all the information in.
Yeah.
That's just an example, you know, it's just a kind of example about not falling into the trap of just going, well, it looked like this before, so let's make it the same.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, no, carry on.
No. Oh, I was
Yeah.
going to just do one more poll. How many Domino applications do you have to migrate? Cool. I'll just do that there. Okay. So we'll go to the next slide, Lou. Woohoo.
Yeah. Woohoo. Pretty pictures. So we provide a migration as a service. You know, being part of Quest, we also can work with software and consulting. But if you want to do this in a more methodical and planned way, a service is a really good way to do it. And it doesn't mean that, you know, you're fixed into a specific thing and you have to have it done. It can also be done on an on-demand basis as well. You know, it's like, you know, you've got a setup and then you pay for X amount of migration events. But it doesn't mean that those migration events are done bang, bang, bang. You know, it's, you know, it can be different things. You can do the archival, and then, you know, once you figure out what you're doing with everything else, you can come back and we can do some SharePoint stuff with you. You know, it's all there. And you know, we put the infrastructure into Azure. It's either your Azure or it can be our Azure. It can be, you know, it's, and when I talk about we and our, I'm talking about Primaxis and Binary Tree together. So it's you know, we have where we want to think about velocity kind of approaches is content migration, right? Because content, as I say, is king, and that's, to be honest, that's the boring part, right?
Yeah.
So why take time out of, I'm pretty sure, you know, other people's teams that have already got full-time jobs to go away and learn a product and then do content migration.
Exactly.
You know, it's you know, we know how to do this, and we enable, you know, we work with a customer to create a structure in which to work week in, week out, and we automate communications with customers. We have you know, we have like a SharePoint site as an example that basically will send automated comms out to people. And, you know, the project management side of the business has a dashboard to know exactly what application is in what stage at any given time. So, I mean, we've done this.
Yeah.
We know this.
Yeah. And I have to say, one of the interesting I was talking to Lou, and I sort of said, what's one thing that's is a bit of a showstopper for customers in engaging in the services, just in a kind of global sort of sense, because there is a huge amount of movement in Europe isn't there, Lou, in regards to moving off Domino. It's that Europe's sort of been the mainstay, and if I have a HCL person on here, they're probably going to kill me. But the reality is there is companies moving their applications off. Because they've all been migrated to mail. They've already migrated their mail for quite a while. So they're kind of going, right, okay, let's next. And management is still going, I'm still paying licensing. But anyway, and one of the things, but they don't believe that we can do it as quickly as what we say we can. I went, are you kidding me? Really?
Yeah. And what usually is that we can do it faster than you can.
Yeah.
And I mean that, you know, we can migrate stuff faster than probably your business can change.
Yeah. So that's something. Yeah. And if you have, and I'll just share some of the results here with that poll. We have some that have a substantial amount of applications. So that's a substantial amount of work. And we know, we have seen, I've been our first major company migrated, I won't say the name of the company, 10 years ago, and they are still supporting that Domino application. There's one Domino application left. It's still alive, and it's but it was a long sort of cycle, and I think we're getting to the place where we need to actually fast track this, because it can be a bit long in the tooth, I would say. So let me just go to this next slide. Do you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken a little bit about, you know, going through and doing the easy things first. So getting rid of what you don't need at all, and then archiving the content that you need to keep, but you know, you don't need access to it. So one of the things that Binary Tree are really passionate about is we predominantly will archive to XML. And even though XML looks bleh, it's a really powerful way to store information, because whether you're archiving it or you actually want to use that XML in the future, you've got the ability to do it. Yeah, because you can actually leverage that XML if you want to actually build an application. So, you know, I talk about XML archival, but XML has got a lot more benefits to it. But the main thing about XML is that it's probably about as future-proof as you're going to get. It's non-proprietary. As long as you've got a browser, you can open up an XML file. It's been around for a long time. It's going to be around for probably another long time. But, you know, XML is ugly. But what we've got is we created a SharePoint site, an application basically in a SharePoint site, and we call it ART, the Archive Retrieval Tool. And what it does is it's like a search engine. It's like a customized search engine, and it allows people to search for the content that's been archived, and it will render on demand the content that they've been looking for to HTML. And the beauty of this is that XML is way faster to archive than HTML, and it keeps all of the content in one file. Yeah, including your rich text, your attachments, your metadata, all of the stuff that you need for compliance is all there in one file, as opposed to splitting it up and potentially losing information. So we have that for archival. Not to say we can't archive elsewhere and do other things, but this is our proprietary way, and we use the service with it.
Cool.
Then we also migrate to SharePoint using this migration as a service. And this is for the stuff that makes sense to go to SharePoint.
Yeah.
There will be stuff that can also go to SharePoint, but it's going to take more development. So you want to split those up, right?
Yep.
You want to do the easy stuff. And I think it's the next slide.
Yep,
Karen,
I've got that up now.
that.
Yeah.
So you know, think about, you know, we categorize it into low content, medium content, and the content from low and medium is all about the volume of content. And then you've got rebuild on top of that. So workflow, UI changes, field changes. Yeah, I mean, field changes are easy peasy. Yeah, so but where you've actually got to start talking to the business, because function is then required.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. And I have to confess, guys, doing the slide has made me lose a bit of track of time. So, and I noticed that there hasn't been any questions put up, and basically these are our key takeaways here. So Lou, if you just want to quickly go through them.
You know, we hoard and we don't like change.
Yeah.
And you know, if I've heard it once in my life, I've heard it a million times. I just want it the same as notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, sorry, the bubble has burst. It's not possible. So make the change now.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's a typical closed mindset, and the reality is we've got to get people out of that almost into a design phase and in the sense that, wow, we could actually do so much more. I think it's really important that we recognize the human nature doesn't want to change, but yeah. The next one.
We spoke about this quite a lot, that, you know, email is not the same as app migration just because it says migration at the end of it. You know, applications it's content migration, but it's business transformation and business change at the end of the day. And you know, we know what you need to know. This is a given. Why try and figure it out yourself? Why, you know, even if you buy an analysis application and you run your own analysis, it's going to give you a ton of data. What are you doing with it? How do you interpret it? And the same for, you know, getting the content out of Domino, and, you know, doing any rebuilds that's needed. You know, we do this. This is our bread and butter. And then I just spoke about the last one, the easy wins, is, you know, take the stuff that's easy to do and has a pretty accurate budget as well, because archival and moving standard SharePoint applications and moving content is pretty easy to quantify as far as a budget's concerned. It's when you start getting into development and iterative cycles that it becomes less clear.
But it's good to get those quick wins done, because then you can show movement, you can show progress. And then it's just focusing on those more complicated. Now we do have we have run out of time. I'm so sorry. But however, you guys have our details, so please feel free to ask questions. And we haven't had any posted up. So did anyone want to just ask any question? If you just put I think you can raise your hand if you want to. It's all very schoolish. But if not, just email us and we will get back to you. And I apologise for my poor timekeeping in that area. I apologise, Lou. We were kind of excited about the questions. So again, Lou, I just want to thank you. And I really want to acknowledge you guys for doing offering such a holistic solution, because I think it is quite overwhelming. We've sort of got to migrate from one system to another, and I keep looking at it going, I'll look at that tomorrow because I really got to get my head around it, and I just don't have the bandwidth. So I don't expect any of us to be any different, and we've got a lack of time. We've all had to frantically go online. So I just want to thank everybody for taking your time, and we hope we've added some value. We'll send out some stuff Monday, Tuesday with this presentation. And again, if you'd like to ask any questions, and a big rave for Lou for getting up at the crack of dawn. I don't even think it is dawn.
You're welcome. Yeah, wait a minute. Is it light yet? No, it's still dark.
Yeah, but there is something there. So cool. And everybody have an awesome weekend. For the Melbourneians, we can get out a little bit more now. We can go 25Ks, which we're super excited. And anybody who lives in any other state, we don't care. No, we do. We'll be like you probably next weekend. So thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, Lou. And I'll finish up now. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.